this is my review of One Punch Man. Okay, so One Punch Man is back, finally, yay! So caveat, the original studio that made the original first season of One Punch Man decided not to do it anymore, and in the past couple years since then, a new studio has been working on taking up the rights to it so that they can actually make a second season out of it. And the second season looks good so far. Some people have complained about it, especially considering the lack of an OP, but I'm assuming that there probably won't be an OP, maybe, I don't know. They moved the OP song to the ending, which is different, but it works. Sort of. But anyway, the episode is mainly to focus on two major plot points. Well, technically three, but Genos' plot point kind of takes a wayside. And, well, I guess the best way to explain this is that it does set up a lot of different plot threads, but there's two that it mainly focuses on. So, the first major one is, of course, Saitama's relationship with King, an S-class hero that we saw before, but we learn a bit more about in this episode, because originally he was just a little background character and didn't really get much backstory beyond that. So, what we learn about him is that there's a lot of rumors going around about how he's the strongest hero, about how he is the greatest hero that ever was, about how he is able to get any hero to back down. And for the most part, well, not for any hero, but any villain to back down. And for the most part, that is true. He is definitely a scary, intimidating dude, and lesser monsters basically cower out of sight, as Tongue Stretcher, a monster introduced in this episode, quickly found out, because he tried to, for lack of a better word, he tried to physically assault some women with his tongue, which is gross and pervy. And King stepped in and, by sheer presence alone, was able to get Tongue Stretcher to back down and turn himself in. So yeah, but throughout all of this, King is lamenting on the fact that he doesn't really want to be a hero anymore, and he's kind of bored with it. And then this comes to a head when G4, a robot created by the same people who created the battle armor suits for the Paradisers back in Season 1, shows up and proclaims that he was sent by the organization to collect battle data, and decides to do this by attacking King in the middle of a busy street. And King bluffs his way out of the fight by leaving and telling him that he can't fight at full power so long as his bladder is full, and goes to the bathroom. And while he's gone, Genos eventually has to step in and fight him in King's stead. And through this, we actually learn a bit more about why people consider to regard King as the strongest hero. Because, apparently, according to the episode, he's been taking credit for Saitama's tasks of heroism for basically the past 3 years, and nobody realized that at all. So King doesn't realize this until later, but it's heavily implied that that's what's going on. So he runs off, and Genos fights the monster, which kind of takes a bit of a backseat. And there is a bit of a touching moment about how Genos decides to use the parts that he got from G4 to upgrade himself further with Dr. Kuseno's help, although he still states that his mission hasn't changed, and he hasn't been able to find the cyborg that destroyed his town, and hasn't had any leads. But that's kind of like a little side thing that's happening with King stuff. It's not as important, but it is pretty important, because it shows that despite the fact that Genos has decided to become a hero, his primary goal of why he decided to become a hero in the first place hasn't changed. But back to King. So King, initially seeing Genos fighting the monster in his stead after running off and hiding, decides to play some video games, and Saitama jumps in through the 22nd floor window, which happens to be where King's apartment is located, and decides to chalk him up about video games and stuff. And then drops the bombshell. He wonders why King ran away if he's so strong. And then, to drive the point home, a giant bird monster crashes through King's wall, and Saitama further questions whether or not he's actually telling the truth about how strong he is. And to King's credit, he never really corrected anybody about the fact that he wasn't indeed as strong as he is. It is in fact just a 29-year-old man who is unemployed and plays video games. That's all he is. And he even outright states that in the episode. So when Saitama has to back in against him, he defeats the monster, and then the two put two and two together and realize the situation. And Saitama tells King that he should consider getting stronger so that he can live up to the expectations placed on him by the organization and all the people who support him. Because King is a big deal, and the fact that he isn't able to live up to those expectations kind of hinders his abilities as a hero a bit. But King does state that he does want to get stronger and decides to help out and become stronger. And then Saitama leaves to play video games to basically do whatever it was he's doing, and promises to come back and play video games some other time. Which he does at the end of the episode, although he does break one of King's controllers. And then here comes the second plot point of the episode. So, Cinch decides to recruit a bunch of people from the criminal underworld to assist him in his fight against the world-ending threat that's going to appear in the next 6 months. Although, that does beg the question. If Lord Boros, the final antagonist of the series up until this point, wasn't the world-ending threat, Lord Boros, the guy who literally leveled a city in a single second, wasn't the main threat. Then who is? That's the big question. And we do kind of get our answer just a little bit at the end of this episode, but I won't cover it right now. So everybody's there who shouldn't be there, and he does have 3 A-class heroes with S-class capabilities backing him up to serve as protection. But I believe they are... Well, I know 2 of them. One of them is Tiger Loincloth, who I know is a prominent character in the manga up until this point. And Magic Man, another A-class hero who dresses like a magician. But I don't remember who the 3rd one was. But anyway, that's not the point. About mid-meeting, Sonic reveals himself that he was there, swipes all the memos without anybody noticing, and then reads them off and states what exactly the situation is and why he wants them to help. And then Sonic leaves because he wants to fight Saitama and doesn't want to play hero. And to be fair, he's kind of an anti-hero. He helps, but he's not actually a hero. He'll help sometimes, but not all the time. But anyway, he leaves and throws all the flyers into the air, and then walks out of the building in order to go find Saitama. And at the same time, Fubuki, who is finally getting her major debut, but we've seen her before, Fubuki and her team go to recruit Saitama simply because they've seen what he's capable of and want to add them to her ranks. Because she does own this giant corporation inside of the Hero Association that recruits heroes. And that's mainly where her main fighting power comes from. While she's not as strong, she does fight. The B-class heroes fight en masse in order to deal with threats. And that's why they want Saitama, because of how quickly he climbed up the ranks. So, yeah. And then the scene ends with Garo, a minor character in the first season, but is going to be a major character from this point onward, picks up the flyer and thinks that it would be a good idea to make that prophecy come true. Because, I'm gonna spoil a little bit here. Garo is meant to be a foil to Saitama. He's meant to be this character who is the opposite of Saitama in every way. Both were bullied as a child, but went in completely different directions after that. Saitama decided to overcome them and become a hero, whereas Garo just kind of descended into his own little madness in his own little world and become a villain, which he does and is going to be the main antagonist for the rest of the season and the rest of the series, as far as I know, because it is going to come down to Garo and Saitama eventually going to have to fight, and Garo is more than a match for Saitama, so that is going to be interesting when they eventually get to that. But overall, the new studio didn't really impact the anime all that much. It mainly just changed the art style. I mean, I didn't really have... I knew they weren't going to mess it up terribly, simply because the first anime basically followed the manga to the letter, for the most part. There were some things they left out, like, for example, some of the backstory stuff for how Saitama decided to become a hero. But for the most part, it did stick pretty close to the anime and the manga adaptation. But they did change some stuff. But for the most part, it was different. It was mostly the same, but it was slightly different. So I don't really expect it to be too terrible. Some people have said it's gonna be terrible. I'm not one of those people. I watched this first episode, and while I do admit with some people that it is going to be a little bit different going forward, and while I do admit it will probably almost never reach the heights of season 1, except for maybe the Garo fight toward the end. Who knows? But I don't think it's going to be that terrible. I think it's going to continue at the same way it went for the first season, albeit at a much different angle because of the way it works. Because of the way they decided to design it, I don't think it's going to be terrible, but I think it's going to be good. I've watched the first episode. I think it's going to be good. You're allowed to make your own opinions, but I personally think it's going to be pretty good. I don't think it's going to be as bad as people have said about how it's going to be the death of the anime or something like that. No, it's good. It's just different. But anyway, if you guys have seen this episode of One Punch Man, what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And consider supporting me on Patreon if you're feeling generous. It's only a couple bucks a month, and it helps me out. It helps me make projects like this. So I would definitely recommend you doing that and helping support the channel. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace! So I'm just gonna... take that. Take this and increase my tactics.